Hey everyone, it's me, Chris, with Body Nova Fitness Coaching. And here today, we are going to talk about your basal metabolic rate and using that to help you lose weight. First off, we got to start with the basics. What is your basal metabolic rate? Okay, so your basal metabolic rate, or BMR for short, or some people refer to this also as RMR, which means resting metabolic rate. All right, so what that is how many calories you would burn if you basically just sat still sat still for 24 hours. That's the amount of calories that it just takes to maintain your bodily functions. No getting up, walking, no, it's just that amount of calories. So throw around another definition of TDEE, which is the total daily energy expenditure. So basically how you normally go through the day of doing everything that you have to do, working out, walking around, doing chores, all those other tasks, that's your total daily energy expenditure. So what you're going to find is your basal metabolic rate makes up about 60 to 70% of your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure. Okay, so what people are wanting to do is they're saying, hey, my basal metabolic rate is less calories than my total activities of total daily living energy expenditure. So I'm going to do that and lose weight. Okay, and in some cases that would be a good idea, but the thing that I would like you guys to understand is how big of a gap that is. Okay, so if you take for example my case, my total daily energy expenditure is about 3,300 calories. Okay, but my basal metabolic rate is somewhere in the 2000s. So we're talking about a big calorie difference here. How do you get your BMR? Now, I always like to do it in this way, because you can always just go to a calculator and type in your weight and your height and your weight or something like that, and get a BMR. But that's going to give you the same BMR as everybody your weight. Okay, so I always like to individualize things, because once you can recognize how people are different, you can create a strategy for them that will work much better than those simple cookie cutter things. So how I like to do it is I like to start with first getting someone's weight and then getting someone's body fat. Okay, so you get the weight and you get the body fat. If you have problems getting body fat in certain ways, you can always do a Navy body fat test. You can look up how to do one. It's just real simple. It has a measuring tape, and the size that you measure, if you're a female, it's the neck, the true waist or the high waist, and of course around the biggest part of the hips. If you're male, it's the neck and the umbilical. So as you get those, as you get your body fat, you can go bioimpedance, you can go DEXA, whatever it is. As you get your body fat, then you can go to Omni calculators, because Omni has a bunch of calculators, and look for the BMR. Actually, you go to TDEE calculator, and they'll give you both. But like I did in my example here, but you can look for a basal metabolic rate calculator. So once you type in your body fat percentage and your weight, it'll get your lean body mass, and in that way, it will be able to get your BMR, your individualized BMR that's catered to you, not everybody that weighs, in my case, 175 pounds, right? So you could get that, you plug it into there, and then you have your BMR. Now, they also have TDEE calculators, which that's your total daily energy expenditure, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so you can also plug it into a TDEE calculator, get both, because again, if you tend to do low calories, a lot of people cannot do low calories for long periods of time and stay successful. So if you got a lot of weight to lose, it will work for a good bit of time, but then it's going to stop working. And then what do? Lower your calories even more? Or do you take your calories back to TDEE, or maybe a small deficit, maybe 10 or 20%, do that for a week or two, and then go back into your high calorie deficit. Okay, so my BMR is set at 1,879 calories, okay? But my total daily energy expenditure is over 3,250 calories. So that is a really substantial gap. We're getting pretty close to where it's half of what my basal metabolic rate is. Now, it's going to be a little closer for most people because they're not as active as I am. You know, they don't have an active job. But still, where that becomes a problem is you can have too big of a calorie deficit. Like those people who fall into the obese category, both by BMI and by body fat. So if it's like maybe a guy at 25% is obese, a woman at 33% is obese. So if you're a guy getting in 22%, you know, and your BMI is over 25, then you have the weight to spare to lose for a bit. Okay. A woman, you know, 30%, you know, 28, 30% and above, you know, and a BMI over 25, 30 makes you obese in both male and female. That gives you room to spare. That gives you a little bit more leeway. So if you're not very active, don't have an active job and lifestyle, you can use this. But what happens as time progresses, your body takes this on as a stressor because it does not have enough energy to do what it needs to do. So it starts to make you burn less and less calories. So what I would do is I would do this in cycles. Okay, I would take maybe 2 to 3 weeks at or close to BMR. After that, I would probably take 1 or 2 weeks at closer to my TDEE, or maybe taking 10% off of that. Okay, so that's how I would handle that. Okay, so as we get into this, what's going to play the largest role in your BMR is going to be how much muscle or lean tissue, lean body mass that you carry. All right, so because that has the most cost, that has the most metabolic or energy cost, because you have to feed that muscle. So this is the reason why with a lot of people that are trying to lose weight, I always recommend doing a recomp phase or a muscle building phase of some sort so they can build their muscle and not just strip away their body fat down to the basics so that they can raise their BMR. Okay, raise the amount of calories they burn. So you're making it harder to go back to where you were when you started losing all this weight. So that would be the way that that would be some of the ways that I would increase that by increasing my lean body mass. Most people think that it decreases with age. I don't think it's a direct, you got older, your BMR decreases. Usually there's also a change in behavior as you age. So let's say when you were in high school, were you walking everywhere? Were you walking to class? Did you have football practice, baseball practice, or whatever sports did you play? You know, most people were more active when they're younger and then less active as they get older, and they don't do things like resistance training to hold on to the lean body mass. So if you don't hold on to your lean body mass drops. And as your lean body mass drops, as I said before, your basal metabolic rate drops. So if you're eating the same type of intake, it's easier to get fat.